Hi, Jess.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. Mental illness is pretty a taboo topic. People don't talk about it, especially within the family. We don't really discuss it beyond our family. But more recently, there has been greater recognition that mental health is important and that people are starting to seek help. But then we still see a lot of microaggressions going on. Like, for example, you don't look like depressed, you look fine, or your anxiety is not real, just get over it. And so a lot of these things, so indicating that I think in general, in Asian societies, people are still not really literate about mental health and also help seeking, and also how people with lived experience are functioning. And I think is comparatively speaking, I think New Zealand and Australia, have much more knowledge or acceptance or a recognition around mental health and well-being.
Yeah, I find that really interesting. I think I've definitely noticed a massive change recently within New Zealand and definitely from what I see in Australia in, I guess, normalizing those conversations. And I think people are getting really brave in the way they talk about it and the way they call each other out in a really kind way always. But even just the language we're using, some of these mental health issues or conditions that people live with that are really serious have in the past been used as kind of like a slang or something that isn't taken seriously. People will refer to OCD and like a passing comment. And I think people are starting to understand that those are actually real things that people with, as you referred to, lived experience. So I think just being able to have that like kind call out culture, I guess, it really helps that narrative to understand that this is a real tangible thing that we're dealing with. So I think we have seen a lot of growth down here in that, but it's something that I see even just among my peers that it's just, there's still that barrier. It's okay, I'll take a sick day because I have a cold or something, but not fully there for the mental health stuff. I think we are in a better place, but it is still a challenge.
I like when you raised the point about language, when we talk about it in our everyday, oftentimes in Hong Kong, we still are very disease focused. We use, actually that person is depressed, that person has, schizophrenic. Yeah. And so we are trying to reframe that. We are trying to kind of call people out and saying that, we shouldn't be using this type of language. We should be more person first, and we should look at a person in a more holistic way. There's a lot of different identities that we all have, and why just zoom in on someone with mental illness with that particular lived experience? There's many other things that we can, venture and understand and appreciate. So I think there's more of that discussion now in Hong Kong and other parts of Asia, but then I think it's still quite behind in terms of other countries. I had pretty serious social anxiety and chronic dysphoric disorder during my high school and college years, to the extent that I stutter when I talk. So I basically don't talk and I don't have any friends because I don't want people to think that I'm weird and evaluated me negatively. And at the same time, I did not disclose this issue to anybody nor seek help because again, I'm really concerned about disappointing my family. And then thinking back, I actually feel very shameful and weird for having all these conditions. I think on top of that, as an Asian immigrant, when I was living in the United States, I often felt out of place and I don't belong. And so I've been really struggling. And then, something called maybe imposter phenomenon. If you only knew me, then you will know that I'm not, as good as I think I am, or you think I am. And that kind of exacerbates also my anxiety and depression further. And but now thinking back, if not that lived experience, I probably would not be so adamant about, promoting diversity and well-being. Which has become my career, and I think that is a blessing in disguise. Obviously, during that 10 years, it was really difficult for me. And then 2 years ago, I also diagnosed with cancer. But this time, I think I have basically no reservations in talking about it. And I think it really has to do a lot with my own mentality. I have better self-regard and self-love that I think I can talk about it and express, my needs and how I feel. And at the same time, I also recognize that cancer is less stigmatized. in Hong Kong and maybe in other parts of the world. So I don't have as much inhibitions to discuss and share with other people, unlike mental health and mental health challenges, which have a lot of stigma and taboo. So I really hope that, through this two experience, I really think that I'm really more gung-ho about, fighting for parity for mental health with physical health, because I think it's so important that people recognize that mental health is as important as physical health.
I was diagnosed with cancer when I was 8, and I lost my leg just prior to my 9th birthday. So I had a good nearly year battle with cancer before they decided to amputate. So that was really early on in my life, and it's something that I think is what kind of built that resilience within me to kind of want to speak more about adversity. Something I'm really passionate about is adversity being an obstacle, not a roadblock, because I think a lot of the time, no matter what the adversity is, sometimes it's we didn't get the job we wanted, or it's we lost our leg. Adversity comes in so many different shapes and sizes, and it impacts us. It's not the size of the adversity that determines the impact, is what I have found. Sometimes things completely rock me that seem really minor, especially compared to losing a leg. And that's something I've learned in my life. It's not about that impact. It is about the impact. It's not about the size of the impact. A lot of people ask me, like, how have you built this resilience? Where did it come from? But I think I learned really young just how hard things can be. So I kind of got this innate way to respond to things, and it made me want to help people, because I think we all face so many different things. And obviously the cancer was maybe a year of my life, but it's the lessons I've had to learn throughout that, even with the body acceptance or figuring out what I can and can't do.
How do you become so open and honest and raw about your life? I just want to know.
For me, I was sick so young, and I think I had to grow up really quickly. I was playing in the playground, and then all of a sudden I was talking to doctors about a language that I didn't even understand. And so I think that forced me to grow up really quickly. I think also my parents really encouraged this openness within me. They were always really honest about what I was going through, even though I didn't understand. And what I went through with my amputation was a really rare situation. So I've always had to kind of have these conversations with people where I'm explaining what I've been through and stuff. So I think a lot of it, nature, maybe a bit of nurture and some learned stuff. But and then I think, I've been doing the social media stuff for about 5 years now. So I've been just constantly talking about my life, and I think it just becomes so natural.
I think in recent years, there's more and more social media platforms that talks about mental health. In Hong Kong, for example, there's lots of new social media Instagram account that talks about psychoeducation, or stories about everybody and how to manage emotions and so on. And for us, back in 2015, we set up Storyteller, which is a community-based social group with the mission to reduce stigma and promote mental health. And now, just about 2019, when I first diagnosed with cancer, I also decided that I want to set it up to become a social enterprise. And we've been using storytelling to demystify mental health, and then to allow people to see that everybody have their unique sense of self, and then there's many different sides, while at the same time, a lot of our stories have resonance between tellers and listeners. So that I hope that we can also promote shared humanity, that after all, we're all human beings. And so we can be more compassionate and kind to each other, and to recognize that we all have ups and downs, and we all are travelers, in this life journey. And so this is our hope, to promote mental health through storytelling.
So I have just written a book. It's called Still Standing. I actually just got the first hard copy in my hands today, which was the most surreal moment. So I've been writing that for the past 2.5 years, and I really wanted to take my time with it. And it is based on my story and my lived experience, and the work I'm doing and the work I've done. And I think I was really called to write it. I've actually wanted to write a book. I told my mum I was going to write one when I was sick in bed as a kid. And it was something that was just one of these big full circle moments to be able to actually do it. But I never thought I would have done it in a way with the life that I've lived. I never would have imagined I've done all the things that I've been able to do. So I just wanted to tell that story. I wanted it to be a place of hope. There's lots of different messages within the book. I wanted it to reach as many people as possible. So one of my key messages that I always strive to get out is to normalize different. I think we as humans, I believe that the one thing we all have in common is that we are different, yet we kind of think we're alone in our differences. And so I really wanted to normalize that. Obviously, I've grown up in a really unique body, and yeah, sure, that's unique to me, but we've all got things that are different within us that we feel insecure or we hide away from. So I really wanted to get that message across. I really wanted to, as I was speaking to before, get the message across that adversity is just an obstacle, not a roadblock. And that's something I'm really passionate about. And it was really interesting. I embarked on writing this book just after I came off Dancing with the Stars. And so I was kind of in the peak of my abilities and my life, and I felt really excited. And about 3 months into writing the book, everything changed for me. I struggled with both of my legs. I couldn't get up each morning and put on my prosthetic because I was having really bad swelling issues. So even throughout writing, I hit another wave of adversity that I was like, this will last like 2 months. And it was 2 years through the whole process of writing that book that I lived with that experience. So it was quite, I wrote from a really raw place. So the book is really honest, as I always try to be, but there were some moments there that were really hard. And I really wanted it to be that way because I want to just really, as I was saying before, open up to hopefully, I guess, help people see those little parts of their life where they can relate to that and hopefully get through.
Like, I think our theme, for the past conversation, what we've talked about, we talk a lot about uniqueness as a person, while at the same time, we also have our similarities as a shared human being living on this planet. So I think, again, try to embrace that uniqueness. It's okay to be different. It's okay to be different from other people. And then we don't have to follow the status quo, and then be in touch with your own body and be more comfortable in our own skin. And that takes time. And I think oftentimes it has to be very honest with ourselves as well. Recognizing our flaws and our assets and our strength is equally important. Nobody's perfect. And so we just need to learn to live with ourselves and then to appreciate that.
Yeah, I think for me, it's knowing that you're not alone. That's something I know we hear a lot, but when you actually just let that sink in, and for me, the more how I know that I'm not alone is by all of these platforms I have around me. So there's so many, there's so many official websites we can reach out to for help, to talk, to have conversations, but there's so many other platforms like Winnie's storytelling. Like, there's people who want to share their story, and I've found the more I've heard other people's stories, the more I'm like, okay, every single person is different. Even if you just start with the smallest thing, like opening up about something that you didn't think you could share, but you're like, okay, I could share this little bit, and then a flow-on conversation starts to happen, and it could be one person, it could be anonymous on a phone line, or it could be on a social media platform. I think that's how we start to open up those walls inside us, or break through those walls and let other people in. I think that is the best advice I could give.
Actually, it's really a joy, talking with you, Jess. So, and then thank you so much for sharing your story. Look forward to your book and your success with your book. Again, for the audience, I'm really glad. Hopefully, our stories inspire you and to motivate you to also be open, and then to think about your own stories and to embrace your stories.
Thanks, Winnie. It's been so nice to get to know you and hear your story. I'm definitely going to go straight and check out Storyteller. I think everyone in the audience should definitely do that. We all need to keep sharing our stories and hearing each other's stories. So maybe that can be one challenge. People could go onto Storyteller and just share their story, which would be really awesome. But it's been great to meet you. And yeah, thank you.